I'm Steph Garcia with D1 Ticker and CSA Connect, and I'm joined by Kevin Kane, Senior Manager of Client Strategy at Navigate. We're going to dive into questions around the Crypto.com deal with the Staples Center and where crypto is going to go in the collegiate sports industry. So, Kevin, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Steph. Really happy to be here.
Okay, so let's just dive in and let me ask, what key points would you make to leaders in college sports about how to get familiar and comfortable with crypto?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Obviously, there's tons and tons of news right now around the space, and I think the first thing to understand is really to kind of get a picture of how big is it right now. How big is it in the U.S.? How big is it globally? Is this kind of a fad, or is this something that's here to stay? And I think the first couple points I would talk about is that over the last 12 months, global crypto users has doubled to 220 million people who currently own cryptocurrencies.
Wow.
That's projected to double again in the next year. So we're looking at almost 500 million people to be invested in crypto. You might think that that's all just kind of kids spending their money or using these interesting ways to invest. But what we're really seeing is this latest kind of surge in crypto is backed by institutions and massive banks, and it's not just the retail investors. So right now, JP Morgan Chase is saying that actually investing in crypto might be a better inflation hedge than gold. And US Bank, one of the top 5 banks in the US, is currently offering crypto services. The crypto market as a whole is around a $2.7 trillion market cap, which is bigger than any company in the world. It's bigger than Microsoft, bigger than Apple. While that is a currency and not a company, I think some of the big stats right now show that this is more than just a fad, and there's a reason that $700 million was just thrown onto what used to be the Staples Center.
Well, if I'm an athletic director or a deputy AD and I'm reading the news and I see that a big brand like Manchester City is suspending their partnership with 3 Key Technologies, that might make me a little spooked and kind of wonder, how stable is this really? What is the risk here? How should these senior leaders be thinking strategically about crypto and the risk involved?
Yeah, again, I think that's a really good question, and I mean, to be honest, I'm surprised that this is the first kind of fraudulent company that we've seen in the space. It kind of runs with the risk of having a decentralized currency. Is that there is no major policing of kind of who a brand is, who the owners are, etc. So it is on the organization to do their due diligence. I think the Manchester City example with 3 Key was kind of a gross level of neglect where they didn't even look into really the ownership or the websites. So I think the other thing is there are some major players in the crypto space right now that are kind of established who not only have their name on massive stadiums here, but are working with Tom Brady on endorsement deals and Matt Damon's in their commercials. And these are the kind of the big exchange companies. And those right now are the kind of the tried and true that you can kind of come to respect and come to know. And what's different about those companies is they are not a coin, they're not a currency. So their business model doesn't actually rely on Bitcoin continuing to go up and up and up. What it relies on is there continuing to be more and more transactions and more people getting into Bitcoin or other currencies. So those companies are a little bit more stable. They have massive amounts of funding. And I think you're going to see them continue to grow. So if I was a little bit worried coming out of the blocks, I'd look at some of those companies, those FTX, Crypto.com, Coinbase, who are already in the collegiate space as well, as we've seen from the Kentucky deal, Cal Berkeley football stadium, and a couple other deals as well.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Tom Brady. You know, the news came out today that Odell Beckham Jr. is taking his entire salary
Yeah.
in crypto. What are there any other examples? I know you also just mentioned a few other ones in the collegiate space, but across all of sports where you feel that crypto is being integrated effectively and appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's early days because even with the Miami Heat, which was kind of the big first announcement of FTX getting on their stadium naming rights, they're only a couple of games, maybe 15 games into the season right now. So in terms of activation, we've seen some cool ideas, but I don't think we're going to quite get to kind of what's big on the bulletin board of objectives for FTX until we have a little bit more time here. What we did see with one of those is at a Heat game, they gave an entire section, $500 each in an account for FTX. So a little bit more of just a media play, but it kind of raised some eyebrows. What we are seeing, and kind of the ones that I like, because with the collegiate deals, it kind of necessitates more structure in the deals right away. So with the Kentucky men's basketball team, they just all signed a deal with FTX to all kind of become ambassadors and endorse FTX. And at the end of every month, FTX will give them US dollars on a debit card that coincide with the kind of level of engagement that they've gotten on social digital platforms and what they've done for the brand. So I really like that as a start. And then as well as they're also giving the players opportunities in NFTs. So each player can create different NFTs and kind of work with them. And I think as we're talking about Odell and Tom Brady and all of this, it's quasi a recruiting tool. If some of these big athletes are going to different universities and they see, hey, Kentucky has a program where I can already start making money and start being like Odell, that's a little bit of a leg up. It's not going to be the end decision, but kind of the more that these universities do things that mirror what the pros are doing and what mirror what kind of the greater United States is doing, the more attractive it is to a player.
Let's leave our viewers with kind of the top three takeaways that, again, if I'm an athletic director, a deputy AD, and I am just I'm dipping my toe into this space, what are like the three most important things I need to know walking away from this conversation?
Yeah, I would say that one, I don't think it's going anywhere, and that these deals are going to continue to grow. I think it is at least beneficial for you all to kind of educate yourself on the sports sponsorship side of cryptocurrency. You don't necessarily have to be an investor, and I think a misconception is that it coincides with Bitcoin going up and down. It doesn't necessarily do that. So I think it's to kind of do the research on who the major players are, and obviously Navigate can help out there. That is, and then also just keep your ear to the ground, because I think you're going to see in collegiate athletics more and more of these deals kind of happening. And I think what's going to be important is if I'm an AD, if I'm the president, etc., you might not want to be the first mover, but you want to see what blueprint works. You want to see what doesn't kind of ruffle the feathers with all the stakeholders at play right now. And so once there might be a blueprint, whether it's Kentucky, whether it's not, that is when you can maybe act. That is when you can say, okay, that program actually is working really well. Let's see if we can do something similar. So I think it would be, if the urge is not to be the first mover here, then just pay close attention to what blueprints here work. And then the third thing is that the money here is massive. $700 million for the crypto.com arena of what is or was the Staples Center. The dollars here will do a lot of talking. We're seeing right now that these crypto companies are paying, I think it's like 38% more than expected, not just average, but expected for naming rights, and I think even higher percent for jerseys right now. So the big thing that these crypto exchanges are trying to get is for you all to be to have their name in your head before you're even thinking about opening a crypto account. They want an FTX, a Coinbase, a crypto.com to be so ingrained that the second that you find you're like, okay, maybe I'll just look into it, you know where to go. You know what website you're going to, or you at least know two or three that come to the top of your head. So it's a huge arms race right now for that awareness. And I think collegiate athletics, with the demographic they have, is right up the alley for 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 an investment here.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight. This is such a huge conversation, and I'm sure we are going to be hearing from you, coming to you a lot over the next few years as this activates in the college space. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Steph. Really appreciate it.